Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to be joining you today. My name is McCarthy-Fakhry, and I work with UNESCO in the section for Education for Inclusion and Gender Equality. My work focuses on strengthening girls' participation, learning, and retention, specifically in STEM fields and STEM education. I was very interested to learn about the Maths Through Stories approach last year and would like to thank Dr. Vincent and the University of Reading for inviting me to contribute to this important work. Today, I'll briefly share a UNESCO perspective on inclusion in maths education, particularly from a gender perspective, and reflect on how this aligns strongly with Vincent's Maths Through Stories approach. I hope that my slides will come through clearly for you. So let me start with the global picture. While women make up over half of all students in tertiary education, they remain significantly underrepresented in STEM fields. According to UNESCO data, only around 35% of STEM graduates are women, with no progress made on that figure over the past decade. This is not just an issue of fairness, it has broader implications for economic growth, innovation, and ensuring diverse perspectives in solving the global challenges we are currently facing. So the question is not only how do we improve maths learning, but also who feels included in that learning. And to understand that, we need to look at the factors that shape participation. This is an area that UNESCO has been working on over the past decade, and we have identified that gender gaps in STEM are not caused by a single issue. They result from multiple overlapping factors across different levels and how girls experience these as they grow. The diagram on the slide depicts these different levels as a sort of ecosystem and show the factors at play at each level. For example, at the learner level, there can be a lack of confidence or self-belief. Moving on to the family and peer level, there can be somewhat limited expectations and encouragement for girls in STEM. At school level, teaching practices and learning materials can have an impact on our participation. And at the society level, gender norms and stereotypes that can impact career choices. And along with that, there can be a lack of visible role models. So because of this, isolated interventions are not enough. What we need to do is look at this holistically, a systemic approach that engages students, teachers, families, and policymakers. So it's this systemic approach where education systems can play a critical role, particularly when it comes to pedagogy and what happens in the classroom. So one particularly important factor that we have identified in the context of maths education is this concept of maths anxiety. So across many international assessments, girls report lower confidence and higher levels of anxiety in maths than boys do. This graph on the slide is from the Global Education Monitoring Report published in 2024, which looked at the level of maths anxiety in countries participating in the PISA assessment, and then compared the levels of anxiety observed to PISA results. So on the graph, you can see that the purple dots represent the level of anxiety experienced by females, and the circles represent the level of anxiety experienced by males. The team at the time, they developed an index of maths anxiety that looked at how 15-year-old students felt as they carried out the maths assessment. So on this graph, the higher the positive result shows that there's more anxiety experienced. So you can see that actually it was found that girls consistently reported higher levels of maths anxiety than boys across all the countries, and that also correlated to the performance results. So to put it simply, the more anxious students felt, the less well they performed. It follows that the more anxious a learner feels, the lower their confidence. So this creates a cycle. Lower confidence leads to lower participation, reinforcing the gaps over time. So the question becomes, How do we create learning environments where students feel confident, included, and capable? And this is where approaches such as Maths Through Stories approach become extremely powerful. From a UNESCO perspective, this aligns strongly with gender responsive or gender transformative pedagogical approaches. So when I say gender responsive, I mean pedagogies that adapt teaching to meet the different needs of all learners fairly. When I speak about gender transformative pedagogical approach, this goes further by actively challenging stereotypes and inequalities to promote gender equality. So on this slide, we are mapping how both gender responsive pedagogy and the Maths Through Stories approach can address the multiple interconnected factors that were highlighted just a few slides ago on the ecosystem. So these are factors that can influence participation and learning in maths. As we said earlier, these factors operate at different levels, be it at the learner level, the family and peers level, school level, and society level. So what this slide shows is how the two approaches, the gender responsive pedagogical approach and the Maths Through Stories approach, can respond to the factors identified at these levels. For example, using the Maths Through Stories approach on the right-hand side of the slide, we can see how it can address factors such as the lack of self-efficacy, personal connection to the maths material, and motivation that are impacting a sense of belonging at the learner level. While the gender responsive approach can address many of the factors at the school level, the Maths Through Stories approach not only offers a teaching strategy that can address these factors, but can also enrich the learner's experience so that they can build confidence and a sense of belonging. So it does this by embedding maths in stories and familiar real-world contexts. So the learning becomes more accessible and less intimidating. This can help reduce anxiety and increase engagement. Not only that, but students are not just solving problems, they are creating characters and narratives. This allows them to see themselves reflected in maths and helps them challenge stereotypes about who can be a mathematician. This slide also highlights a number of additional benefits of the Maths Through Stories approach down in the right-hand corner. It supports an interdisciplinary approach, linking maths with literacy and language skills. And one of my favorite features of Maths Through Stories is how it shifts students from being consumers to creators of knowledge. This not only builds confidence, but it creates a sense of belonging. It also, very importantly, from an UNESCO perspective, it enables the representation of marginalized groups in maths learning, particularly in marginalized or minority languages, by the students producing the stories within their own communities with their own local language. They are actually generating a whole series of learning materials in maths in their local language. So this one feature is extremely interesting from a UNESCO perspective. The approach is also very low cost. It's very accessible. It can be offline. It's low resource, and it can enrich existing curricula rather than replacing it. So overall, what we see is a strong synergy between a system level approach, such as the gender responsive or transformative approaches, and a practical classroom-based approach. So from a UNESCO perspective, Maths Through Stories offers a practical and scalable way to translate gender equality and inclusion principles into an everyday classroom practice. And that is where I will hand back over to Dr. Vince, who is, I'm sure, going to bring you through the rest of the workshop. And I wish you a very enjoyable and engaging experience. And I hope that this will lead to very positive outcomes in the future. Thank you very much.